Hi guys, this week in class, as you know, we're doing presentations on media literacy. My presentation is on music, and I also worked on this presentation with Carly and Lily. First of all, I wanted to describe a common experience that I have had and that I think many people have had. So, you're driving down the road, maybe it's after a day of work, and you're zoned out, listening to music, and a song comes on that you know all the lyrics to, that you know pretty well because it's been popular lately, and you for the first time actually start listening to what the words say, what they mean, and you might know you might have known all the words previously, but you hadn't realized the meaning before, and you tune into it for the first time. And I've had this experience a few times. Sometimes I'll hear the meaning, and it'll be like, oh my gosh, I do not agree with what this is saying. Or it's like, oh my gosh, I love the meaning of this. I wish that I had actively listened before. And sometimes it's like, I have no idea what this actually means now that I'm actually paying attention, but I think it's cool. And that's those are interesting experiences to have. But what can be alarming about that? For me, I think that it's alarming because how often is there media present in our lives, or how often are we consuming media that we're not actually aware of what the meaning is behind them or what the intention is behind that particular medium. So in general, media literacy is defined as, by many sources that I've found, the ability to identify different types of media, understand what messages are being sent, and like what the intention is behind those messages as well, what the motivation is behind what the creator is trying to do, which is problematic that um, media literacy is something we should strive for when literally everyone can create media these days, especially with music. It is so easy to put music out there. And it is impossible to think about every possible factor as we consume music, um, because there's so much of it and literally anyone can do it. But why is media literacy important in music? I think it's important in music for a few reasons. First of all, the simplest one that comes to my brain is censorship. So, obviously, as parents should probably censor to some capacity what their kids listen to music wise. Obviously, parenting styles vary, but you're probably not going to let your 4-year-old listen to the most violent topic of a song, or songs that carry a lot of sexual content or that sort of thing, because the 4-year-old brain is not developed enough to be at a place where they should be hearing that, or that's something that they need to know. Speaking of developing brains, music can have a profound impact on your brain, mood, and psyche. As a psychology student, I have learned that music engages and triggers many different parts of your brain, and because of that, we know that even when we don't think we're actively paying attention to what we're hearing in our ears, um, our body is engaged with it, and we actually are consuming that information, even when it's subliminal, even when it's not something that we are intentionally paying attention to. Um, and that's really an important thing to note. So, especially with developing brains like the ones that we have as students, now I don't have 30 minutes of time to talk about all the research behind this, but we just should not be consuming media without paying any attention to what the meaning is behind it, because it's detrimental to our brains when they're fully developed in a lot of ways. And it's important to know the message behind it. So, for example, a musician might have many goals to producing a song. Sometimes it's just because they want to express themselves. Sometimes it's artistic expression. They want to get their feelings, their emotions, their stories, love, anger, all the types of ways that they can express themselves through music out there. And that's all wonderful. Sometimes there's other motivations that we might not love as consumers that we should pay attention to. Like, maybe an artist is just trying to make more money. Maybe their main goal is to maintain their reputation. Maybe they're intending to be a part of a political conversation of some kind. And often, very often, we see brands being promoted or names being promoted and that sort of thing. And we automatically think and can imagine and know that in movies and in TV shows, there's a lot of advertising and that sort of thing, but we don't necessarily always think that music carries that. But I know that I've been listening to a song every once in a while and thought, where the heck did that promotion come from? I didn't know this artist was out here promoting some other agenda. And that's just very important to be aware of. Is there subliminal messaging as well? We just cannot be aware of every possible motive, but it's important to try to pay attention to what we're consuming. One silly example that I can think of is I remember one experience when I was about 16 years old. I was in the car with my friends and we were listening to music that I didn't like. And it was really stupid music because 16-year-olds typically listen to really stupid music. And it was like The Weeknd or someone like that. No offense to anyone who likes The Weeknd. But a really, really popular song came on and I, for the first time, listened to the lyrics and hated them because of the message that it was portraying about women and their roles in relationships and what their expectations are. And it was just super, super toxic for me. I didn't necessarily enjoy it. Also important to note, media literacy does not look the same for every single music consumer. I don't necessarily mean that, oh, you shouldn't listen to music that has cussing, or you shouldn't listen to music that is against your religious beliefs. I don't mean anything like that. I just mean, as individuals, we should be aware of what type of meaning and ideas that we're perpetuating as we listen for our own individual health. And we should be paying attention to what type of content and music we're putting out there and think about the impact it might have on others. So what can we do as consumers and students? I wanted to touch on briefly passive and active listening. Lily actually talked about passive and active listening in our very first presentation, and I've mentioned it kind of a few times, but we can passively listen to music, and there's not anything wrong with that. But I just think that it's important to be aware of sometimes when you're listening to music, it does have an effect on your mood or how you're interacting with others. I know there's been a few times where I'm walking across the quad as a student listening to something sad or angry on my way to class, and then I'm in a bad mood and I'm not ready to engage with the class. But that's just important to, I don't know, define and think about as passive and active listening and know that there's a difference. But yeah, also with what I talked about previously, developing brains versus developed brains, just being aware that like this is a sensitive time for your mental health and for your brain as a young adult, and that the media you consume really does matter a lot, especially when as students we have so many other stressors going on. It would be healthy and helpful to use music as a platform to de-stress or just to be aware of what we're consuming so that it's not adding more weight to our daily lives in general. So for you, what would it look like if you were media literate, first of all, and what would it look like if we were all as individuals media literate and aware of what we were consuming, so as a whole we could be more healthy? And with music, I think that's something that would look really cool and beautiful and healthy, because there's already so many different types of music out there that creators will continue to create whatever they want. But if we're aware of what we're listening to, it makes it more of a fun experience, and it makes us more willing to engage with the actual meaning and emotion behind a song. So here are my references. Just have a few.